let's get started. Let's get started. Right, here we are. I don't think my overlay is cutting too much off. Yeah, so questions to me that maybe aren't relevant to the VOD review, we can save them till after in the doc. And I'll try and interact with you guys as you go. Yeah, so let's be kind. Yes, that's right. Shadowy, she swings a mad band hammer. I don't know how she gets it through airport security, but it works. Thanks for the biddies, Lil Cub. Appreciate it. So it's safe to say that Panda is not only the most experienced, but also the sexiest caster in EU Overwatch. When he gets excited in game, I'm rock hard. When he analyzes the plays, my heartbeat goes wild. I wouldn't say they have a crush on him, but obviously he's man of my dreams. Right, well, my expectations are through the roof now. So I haven't heard this yet. I haven't sort of pre-screened this at all. We are going to just jump in. Hopefully my camera isn't blocking too much. I think it's okay where it is. Thank you again to Panda and to Elite for allowing me to do this. And I will be uploading it on YouTube afterwards. Now, I'm already excited about this game, fam. Couple reasons for that. My boy Mazassa, Hortic as well. So, all right, Portugal hype. And Marta's in this game as well. So he's like, in my opinion, he's one of the top Polish players. He's also, I've seen him like on every damn team since ever. So, alrighty, let us begin. So it'll take me a little while to know who was who in this one. Obviously, Panda is the color guy, and Elite is the play-by-play.
If they decide to stick with this 1 point on their attack, bringing out Scalar on the Bastion. We will see if he decides to switch. Oh, he's standing still. Oh, he's going to stand in the spawn room and shoot out of it as he gets started on this Bastion for one.
It's pretty energetic as far as an opening goes. I would say I would say maybe that like you're almost play-by-play casting the possibility of whether the Scalar is going to play Bastion or not, which is a little bit of an interesting decision here. There's probably some other things that you could sort of focus on. I just think it's maybe not something that needs to be brought to the fore here. I mean, a Bastion on this map wouldn't be too crazy, right? We haven't seen Junkertown in the Overwatch League in a while, but, you know, probably not too shocking.
1 point, so they are going to run with this pirate ship strategy that's kind of fallen off a bit, but they're bringing it out. They are off to a hot start after taking Oasis. We'll see if they can continue the momentum in here on Junkertown. Scalar coming out on the Bastion. He'll jump up on the payload as they...
So you're referring to the Bastion again. I mean, I think you already pointed out that they're going to be running Bastion. Is there a shortcuts for like going back on Twitch VODs? Is there a... No, I guess I have to do it all manually. Why do I wear the rings? They have meaning. Yeah, I can answer it a little bit later. I'm going to go back a little bit. I haven't heard the other guy yet. I mean, like, in my opinion, I don't think you need to play by arrow keys, you say? Doesn't seem like it. My opinion, you don't need to play by play these first few moments. I would like the analysis caster probably to be talking more here, your color guy. Normally when this is happening, I had let Matt do the talking because I want him to tell me about how these compositions are going to interact, right? Because what you're doing is you're talking over a rollout as a play-by-play caster. I think there's I think there's a lot more room maybe for discussion about like what do these comps do? I mean, like this team, I guess they're Polish, right? Because that's a pretty intense name. There's shield pressures there, right? We've got a Roadhog in the mix. There's also a Hanzo. It's, you know, Hanzo trying to work around the side. There's obviously Widow, the Widow v Widow battle. There's a bunch of stuff that you can sort of discuss there. So I think your play-by-playing stuff here, which is pretty...
On this Bastion for 1 point, so they are going to run with this pirate ship strategy.
I give you credit. You don't derail yourself to talk about a Widow headshot, which is good. I know some casters do that.
That's kind of fallen off a bit, but they're bringing it out. They are up to...
Hello? Why is this...
On this Bastion for 1 point.
Twitch VODs are going to be a pain. Do bear with me.
That's kind of fallen off a bit, but they're bringing it out. They are off to a hot start after taking Oasis. We'll see if they can continue the momentum in here on Junkertown. Scalar coming out on the Bastion. He'll jump up on the payload as they start to get this one set up. But
you haven't really told me anything yet. Or at least, like, I feel like you're at this point. There's a lot of talking just for the sake of talking. First of all, like, there's no standardized amount of time that a caster should talk, but I don't... that would be better, Mushu, if you could. Yeah, YouTube VODs in the future. I mean, you've told me that they're playing with a Bastion. You're telling me that they're trying to continue the momentum, which is all fine. But there's not much discussion about, like, is this a normal composition or is this not normal? Is this a good composition against a defensive setup? Like, how do they deal with the Bastion? You know, like maybe a little bit of theory crafting would be good. I think this is where I usually let Matt go. And Matt, like, always comes up with something interesting that I can bounce off of.
But what do you think about the Bastion coming out from 1 point?
Great. I love that you asked the question here. Elite, I assume this is you. This is where you can actually have that discussion.
I really like what Brusen did. Brusen started off on Reinhardt to shield Scalar from the door just in case there was any cheeky defense coming out from the side of Cole, but in the end it was shielding his buddy of the Omnic to get back on the point against all lore, and saving the president from
Okay, so you haven't really answered the question. I think the question that Elite asked is like, what do you think about the Bastion here? You know what I mean? And you kind of lead with telling us like what happened with like an early Reinhardt. I assume there was a Reinhardt initially, right, that they played to get the Bastion onto the payload safely or whatever, which is fine. But you're taking a long time to sort of say this anyway. We'll see if you come back to the actual question.
Dying, and that's exactly what you want to do, so that way the sailboat can become active. But the payload's at a little bit of a stall here. I do enjoy the sailboat strategy, but it still comes down to Frost versus Danye. Who can get the pick first?
So I like you point out the pick, or like you sort of talk about how it's important between the Widowmakers who gets the first pick. Yeah, like I'm really glad that like the question was asked of sort of Panda there to sort of gave his thoughts about it, but we don't get an answer. So I wonder if you heard him or you just had something else you really wanted to talk about, which is also fine. I do this all the time. I like ask Matt a question that maybe is not like really something he wants to talk about, but he'll answer it quickly and then he'll like, you know, I think it's pretty good. But one thing I think that's more important is the Widow battle, right? Like, so you can, you know, you don't have to go in depth on it. You don't have to entertain the question, you know, all that much. But you should answer it.
We'll see if they can continue the momentum in here on.
So I've gone back a bit, if you're wondering.
Out on the Bastion, he'll jump up on the payload as they start to get this one set up. But what do you think about the Bastion coming out from 1 point?
I love that you asked the question. I'm really happy to see this already in the cast.
I really
even if you know the answer to the question, right? Like, this is a great way to evolve a color caster.
like what Brusen did. Brusen started off on
I've got a bit of freezing here, guys. Sorry, because I keep stopping and starting. The VOD is a little bit salty with me.
from the door just in case there was any cheeky defense coming out from the side of
Krankenwagen?
But in the end,
Nah?
it was shielding his buddy of the Omnic to get back on the point against all lore, and saving the president from.
Okay, yeah. So, bro, like you're taking about like. You're taking a fair while to tell me something pretty straightforward, right? The Reinhardt. Like, so you're telling me about the law, then you're telling me you know, about saving the president. You're using like a bunch of terms here that like a newer viewer just doesn't understand. Fortunately, like a lot of Open Division viewers are diehards, like those guys on Reddit who like seen every game since Apex. But like we talk about the sailboat, you're talking about the Omnic, then you're talking about which is fine. You can refer to him as an Omnic. Then you talk about the president. So you're using a lot of terms here that require some sort of assumed knowledge. And you haven't quite answered the question. So I don't love this. And obviously you're missing a bit of action. But one thing I'm happy about is that no one's derailing themselves to comment on like a sniper kill. I think it is pretty important for the attacking team if Frost dies here that like that is mentioned, and then you need to talk about what's happening. You're all spectating separately. We're working on making sure Carla sets up play-by-play and observer. Understood. Yep, that's fine. I'll keep that in mind.
Dying, and that's exactly what you want to do, so that way the sailboat can become active. But the payload's at a little bit of a stall here. I do enjoy the sailboat strategy, but it still comes down to Frost versus Danye.
Why do you enjoy it, I suppose, is my question. So you can insert like a personal anecdote there. I don't have an issue with you doing that at all, but you probably should tell me why, I suppose. Sorry guys, I do also, I'm in the process of getting the groceries delivered because I'm a lazy millennial, and obviously I didn't have time to go and get them today, so I will eventually have to duck out and open the door and let them in. When does Season 2 start? Well, probably next January, I guess. Yeah. So tell me why you like this strategy. Otherwise, I don't really want to hear that you like it. It doesn't really add much to me. It's like, oh, he likes it. That's really good. He likes the thing. But I like it to have like a reference to the strategy of it.
You can get the pick first.
Yeah, yep. And as we see with Satrux status, Scalar gets that kill. This might be 1 point's chance to push in there. Scalar's trying to shoot, but he's got a big Orisa in his face. Now Dragon Strike will come across. It'll fly across the payload, but in the end, it wasn't able to catch anyone. They're still keeping this payload moving, though, getting very close to hitting this checkpoint. Cole will come in and try to contest this one. Scalar will get hooked in by Kobe. He'll live through it, though. He's being kept healed up, and Rafix will be the last one to fall, and they will hit this first checkpoint.
Cool. So this is the play-by-play. Obviously, this is more my specialty. Hey, what's up? Welcome back, me gusta tacos. I am going to go back over the fight, and then we're going to stop at a few points. I actually think this was decent play-by-play, personally. Obviously, you definitely picked the correct time, in my opinion, to cease with the discussion strategically and obviously begin to cast it. But let's go back. I'm going to pause it probably about 5 times at different points and to add a couple of bits and pieces.
This might be one.
Let me just go back a little bit more.
Lore in saving the...
So first things first, Elite, I want you to watch your phrasing because you're not breaking up clauses. You're not breaking up concepts in your sentences very well. You're using a lot of run-on sentences, right? So for example, what I mean by that is that you're referring to different things, but you're not using emphasis to imply that you're actually talking about something else. And what I mean is, like, let's say, oh, it's a sunny day. You'd say, oh, it's a sunny day. I'm going to get some groceries done. Oh, the laundry's still, taking a while to be finished. I've got to clean up later on. The sun is really, hot or bright. There's no like, geez. You need a little bit of, you need a breath between those sentences at least. And especially if, let's say there are multiple things that happen in a fight. Someone gets picked off, someone gets rezzed, someone's out of position. There are things that you're referring to, right? You probably need to distinguish the importance of these things to one another, right? I'll show you what I mean.
President from dying, and that's exactly what you want to do, so that way the sailboat can become active. But the payload's at a little bit of a stall here. I do enjoy the sailboat strategy, but it still comes down to Frost versus Danye. Who can get the pick first?
Yeah, and as we...
First of all, you don't need to say yeah. I mean, you can, but I'm not sure what you're responding to because you say yeah and then you start casting, so it's probably not necessary. A lot of casters do this. They go out of their way to acknowledge the other person when they pick up, or they sort of they restate a point sometimes, which I'm not saying is what you've done here, but just for fluidity's sake.
You see with Satrux status, Scalar gets that kill. This might be 1 point's chance to push in there. Scalar's trying to...
So here you go. So like, I think you really want to emphasize the fact that this is the one chance for 1 point to get in here, right? And you say that, but then there's not really, you don't give it any breathing room on either side. You're just sort of straight in.
Shoot, but he's got a big Orisa in his face. Now Dragon Strike will come across. It'll fly across the payload, but... I
mean, you've obviously said come across and then fly across, which is unnecessary. Just try and trim that.
In the end, it wasn't able to catch anyone. They're still keeping this payload moving.
So in the end, it wasn't able to catch anyone. They're still keeping this payload moving. But this is a one sentence. In the end, they weren't able to catch anyone. The payload's still moving. Okay, well, you've now gone onto a different topic, essentially, inside the fight, right? So you want to be like, in the end, it couldn't catch anyone. But, or however, or despite this, or in spite of this, the payload is still moving, right? You need to break up your clauses a little bit more. And I used to do this all the time, by the way. This is like a really common thing for play-by-play casters who cast fast. Because the issue is not being able to catch everything. It's being able to catch yourself from making sure that everything doesn't just jumble into one mass of words that people don't understand. I think it's great that you can cast fast. I personally don't think it's too hard, but I could be biased. What I really enjoy is when someone can cast fast and still be understood and can make their points distinct, and that in a hierarchy of information that you're delivering in a team fight, I know what the most important thing is by the way that you deliver that information, right? What's the most important thing? The dragon strike that comes across, it doesn't get anyone. The payload's still moving. Obviously, we talk about that first kill that Scalar got on the Orisa, I think it was. Talking about this could be a chance. So like, there's a bunch of things you're saying, but they all kind of seem just as important as one another.
Getting very close to hitting this checkpoint. Cole will come in and try to contest this one. Scalar will get hooked in by Kobe. He'll live through it, though. He's being kept healed up, and Rafix will be the last one to fall.
Generally speaking, the content of what you're saying is fine, in my opinion. Excuse me. Yeah, I think the content's fine. You are talking at the same tone for the entire fight. You're talking at the same pace for the entire fight. And you're talking at the same volume for the entire fight. So your three biggest tools as a play-by-play caster to add gravitas, to add relevance, to add excitement, you're not using any of those. I suppose you're using pace, but you're not varying it at all. See, it's not about having a tone, a pace, a volume. It's about varying that up a little bit more. So you're hitting me like... Again, it's none of your points are distinct from one another. Nothing stands out. Let me see if I can, on the fly, try and cast over it and give you maybe an example of what I sort of mean. I don't know how this will go, actually, but...
It's still...
All right, so payload set up here. Horthic actually gets pulled out of the way. An opportunity to find a pick denied from him, but now Frost is going to set up. He does know a Widowmaker sitting behind the boxes in the background, but he steps away. Dragon Strike comes through. That was a close one, but fortunately, the red team were able to work around the point a little bit more. That's the Widow pick off, though. Dane finds Frost. It's crucial now. Horthic needs to shut down this Widow, and with the help of the Diva, he's managed to do so. Now 1 pointer getting rolling, and now it'll be the clean-up in the fight. Just the Mercy left. Bob's your uncle, and we've gotten to the next point. So we've got speed, we've got volume, we've got tone, we've got a few different things. And now, like, you know, I mentioned that, it was lucky that they avoided the Dragon Strike. It was important that they had to pick off the Widowmaker to try and even the fight, or to try and prevent them from getting picked up. So, like, just some variation is really important. It's not about trying to get the words out. It's really about how you deliver the words.
The side of 1 point off to a strong start on their attack.
That's just one of the scarier aspects of running.
And I also obviously ended that fight on a low cadence. Bob's your uncle, right? There's a sense of finality to it, and that's obviously a really important way, not only to round off what you're saying and to give a very clear message to the viewer that the fight is over, but also to your co-caster so they know when to jump in.
A pirate ship with double sniper, Frost and Horthic.
All right, so you're using sailboat and pirate ship now interchangeably. I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. We probably want to keep your definitions consistent.
Between and why solo heal.
Oh, stop this Twitch VODs.
In between and why solo heal is just so prominent on Junkertown. You know, you try your best to focus the Bastion, you're gonna get punished by the long scope of Frost. You tried to focus Frost, probably gonna get a Storm Arrow in the dome by way of Horthic, and they're gonna have a couple ultimates from that cheeky push as well, but no Zarya to combine with this Dragon Strike, so either expected to get a lot of kills or just zone way of more free card.
This is great. In my opinion, I think this is really good. You explain why it's tough to stop a single healer composition. I don't know if I agree necessarily that like that's why single healer comps are good. I think you could phrase it a little bit more, saying, well, yeah, you get rid of a healer because you want, you know, you need Bastion with double sniper, so you need triple DPS. That maybe makes it more understandable to people, so they sort of know, well, okay, there's a reason why we have one healer, but it's not because one healer is really good. It's because we don't have space for a second healer because we want multiple threats from different angles, right? Your Widow and your Hanzo. I also really happy that I highlighted the fact that we have these ultimates coming into the next fight, and that you know, the push resulted in them having these ultimates. You'll mention that there's no Graviton Surge to combine with Horthic's Dragon Strike. All things that I really am happy to hear.
Well, 1 point will continue their attack. Oh, when Frost is going to take out Matt there. So Matt will head back to the spawn room, and it's going to be a long...
I think you'll find as well his name is Mart. The only reason why I know that's because I met him in person and had him tell me. It's just, yeah, Polish names. Getting excited over that kill's not bad.
Walk back for him unless he can get res back up, and he will.
Yeah, so the problem is now, like, always be ready for Widowmaker picks to be resurrected if you know the enemy Widow, if the enemy Mercy hasn't sort of res recently. So I don't think you should be getting excited in the current meta about Widow Widow getting picks necessarily, unless there's multiple ones, because you should assume. So now you're retroactively, you're backpedaling, and you're like, unless he can get a res, he's just got res, as you've said that, and then you're like, oh yeah, he's gotten a res. I mean, this is obvious to me. Like, we can see that. It's on the kill feed. You can mention that he was brought back up. I think that's okay. But you kind of set yourself up to have to backpedal by getting ahead of yourself a little bit there in that fight by, saying that he's going back to spawn. Obviously, he's not. Yeah, he's going to hang around. He's going to be a factor here. But it does force a res out of Fat. So that's the thing.
Good play there from Zano to bring him back in. But they're still...
Yeah, good play from the Mercy, pressing E on the dead person and bringing them back to life. I mean, you try and avoid trivialities, right, from your casting at all. Like, you shouldn't be... There's so much to talk about in this game that you shouldn't be having to fill air with stuff that doesn't actually mean anything. So, like, that's like, for me, that kind of tells you that tells me that you don't really know what to talk about, or that you're just talking about something that, like, bruh, who gives a shit about the Mercy res?
Keeping this payload moving already almost 3/4 of the way towards this next checkpoint. They did not decide to switch up.
Try to use 3/4 there. 3/4 is just obviously a little bit, it requires an extra step of figuring out. Not a big deal.
Off the Bastion, we see a lot of teams switch off after hitting that first checkpoint, but the side of 1 point gonna stick with it. They have 4 big ults ready on their side. So
okay, so you mentioned most teams. Okay, so if you're gonna drop something like this, like, most teams switch off of this composition. As a viewer, I'm gonna be sat there like, well, why the fuck haven't they switched off? Because one of the best things about Overwatch casting, or when you're making comparisons between all these games that you're going to be casting, right, is that sometimes games kind of just look the same, or team compositions kind of look the same. So this is different, or they've done this now. There needs to be a discussion, in my opinion, of why most teams switch off, or more importantly, why they haven't switched off. And this is a great chance to bring Panda in quickly. I would say, as a play-by-play caster, with considering where the payload is, you probably don't have time to bring him in. So this is where you need to kind of double duty and say, a lot of the time people switch off the Bastion, and you need to tell me why. I mean, I personally think there's no reason to switch off Bastion unless you lose a team fight. So most teams, if they get to this point and still have the Bastion, then they shouldn't switch. Yeah, so I don't mind. I don't really have an issue that you're play-by-playing prior to a fight. But if you're going to do this, then you need to sort of give some justification. You can't just sort of throw something out there and hope the shit sticks. Because if you haven't been hydrating, then it'll just bounce off the wall. Life hacks. All right, so let's see what you do with this team fight. So first pick here, it's a defensive Hanzo pick on the Orisa. This is super pertinent, and you should already be ready for this. With Malzasa dead, no one's going to shield this boy. So theoretically, 1 point has the choice to go aggressive, and use tank configuration, Dragon Strike in some artful manner, or they sort of back away and try and set up some sort of scenario where they can res. But I don't really think there's a good res setup here, because obviously you lost your shield tank. So I guess you could stick a Mercy in front and use your whole defense matrix. Right. So I hope to hear about why this is an important pick. That's my hope.
This team fight could spell doom for the side of Kobo. As we see Malzaza gone, that might force them to back up and wait for him to come back before they engage a fight.
It's not.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. I don't love this this team fight. I think you stretched out what you were saying. The problem is that you very slowly, like what you said there was that this fight could spell doom for the blue team, but they just got the first pick. But because you're taking maybe a long time to say this, or like this, you're elongating the sentence maybe unnecessarily, because I can hear you. I can hear you trying to come up for air and take breaks here. I could tell that you're stalling a little bit, or that you're not finding the words as quickly as you'd like. So by the time you say that this fight could spell doom for the defending team, the red team have already lost the fight. They already had the Orisa picked off. So like you're 5 seconds behind, and then what you did there is that you just jumble out the rest of it. Like, oh, I guess no, they lose a team fight, they back up. So you've kind of fucked yourself in that regard.
First checkpoint, but the side of 1 point gonna stick with it. They have 4 big ults ready.
Four big ults ready on their side.
This team fight
could spell doom. But I mean, like, you're still talking about this when Marts get killed and like they're pressuring. Obviously, this is going to happen, right? They're going to pressure the Bastion now because there's no Orisa to defend him. So
as we see Malzaza's gone.
Force
them to back up and wait for him to come back before they engage a fight.
So that might force them to back up and wait for him before they come to the engagement. But I guess we got that variation in pace that I was maybe hoping for. But I mean, that was super quick. How'd they lose a fight with 4 ults up? Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The second most important hero on their team got picked off. That's about it. Like, if your Orisa is dead, you can't even res them because you don't have a shield. So yeah, I'm not sure if you're maybe not thinking about what you're saying so much. I need you to be a little bit lighter on your feet. So I sort of need you to be on your toes. And you're talking about something that's not relevant and the fight's already over, essentially. This is not a game where you can sit around. I appreciate that you can talk fast, but it seems like that was an inopportune time to talk slow or not be agile enough to sort of catch what was actually happening.
It's not in a free resable part of the map there, and this is exactly to your point where most teams find themselves having a hard time setting up the payload of Doom itself, but the Dragon Strike's going to give them a little bit of free card to do so, and that kill on the Pilot Diva is especially going to do so, but math comes up huge again. This DPS coming out from Cole is exactly what they need, so that way that the President himself can't get back on the payload, and stuffing that tank configuration elite is even better.
I actually think this is quite a good job of sort of off-rolling as a color caster. You kind of had to there. However,
and stuffing.
So we'll go back a little bit more.
And wait for him to come back before they engage a fight.
It's not in a.
So I think, like, first of all, you point out that you can't get a free res on Malzaza, which is exactly right. That is exactly the problem in this fight. And so you say it's not in a free resable part of the map. You are elongating your words a little bit here. I feel like you can be a little bit more expedient with the delivery of that information. It's like, well, and you could just say, like, well, Elite, you can't really res there. You're way out in the open, no shield to get your Mercy behind, and then you still need to stay on your toes. This is the problem with Overwatch, right? Because you can go from fights to lulls very quickly. It's clear to see that, like, blue team's actually pushing a little bit, trying to get a bit more bang for their buck. Obviously, they're, like, setting up a halt here, so you know they're obviously trying to chase some kills. Right.
Free resable part of the map.
I mean, you stuttered, that's why, right? So you lost crucial time stuttering in general, right? The ums and ahs, which I do too, by the way. I still do now. If you listen to me, like, there is umming and ahhing, but it's obviously unfortunate that you lost that opportunity. So you mentioned it can't be resed. What now?
There, and this is exactly to your point where most teams find themselves having a hard time setting up the payload of Doom itself, but the Dragon Strike's going to...
Okay, so, like, there's a lot of colloquialism here. Payload of Doom. What does that mean? Like, you can just say, you can be specific here without using isms. You know, you can say, you know, you're exactly right, Elite. It can be hard for some teams at this point to keep a Bastion on the payload because of the high ground or the pressure that he faces. Bastion on payload, yes. Payload of Doom, I don't know what that means. You also make a reference to the President a little bit later on again. I think with this audience, it's probably okay to do that. I'm kind of thinking from, like, if this was an hour game, which, you know, maybe you might be casting one day, right? So it's worthwhile thinking about. But try to refer to him by the hero name, just because so there's no confusion, I think. I use sort of the President sparingly. I'll say this is a protect the President composition, and then I'll explain who the President it is, right? So, like, that's sort of established. I think if you establish that, then you can probably do it. A minor thing. All right.
To give them a little bit of free card to do so, and that kill on the Pilot Diva.
Sorry, 1 second. I think my groceries are here. Yeah, so someone's rocked up. So give me a sec. I've got to go get my groceries. I will be back in just a moment, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to go downstairs to get my groceries. Yeah, he's rocked up. He's arrived. It's an Australian term. And I'll be back. Yes, mate. It's not drugs. Sorry, that was super unprofessional, but I needed to get my groceries. So, we're back. We're back. I had to do meal prep later on tonight, so. All right, let's keep going.
Diva is especially going to do so, but math comes up huge again.
Okay, so you do cut off your point there. I think you're like, you mentioned that Mart is finding a pick, which is just fine. But you cut yourself off.
Supercharger came out, was taken out by the stealth destroyer.
Right time setting up the
again.
payload of Doom itself, but the Dragon Strike's going to give them a little bit of free card to do so.
Horthy
And that
gets
kill on the Pilot Diva is especially going to do so, but math comes.
So the kill on the Pilot Diva is, you kind of mentioned it's going to do so, I suppose. I think it's okay.
Huge again. This DPS coming out from Cole is exactly what they need, so that way that the president himself can't get back on the payload, and stuffing that tank configuration elite is even better. Do
you think? I guess so basically you're saying that like this DPS from the defensive team is what sort of setting this up. I guess that's not incorrect. Ada Redorn, thanks for the sub. That's a big sub, isn't it? Much love. Twitch Prime, I appreciate it. You could have passed back maybe at that point. I don't hate that team fight. Maybe it's a little bit general to say that it's like it's just the DPS winning the fight, but that's a minor nitpick.
Supercharger came out, was taken out by the stealth destruct, but like you said, they stuffed the big configuration tank that came out from Skiller, but still kills are going out from both sides. They're still slowly keeping this payload moving. Neither team with a huge
kills coming out from both sides is a filler for me. I don't like that at all. I mean, like anyone can see that. Try and avoid this. Try and avoid that in general.
Advantage here in this fight, but now the side of Cole will start to push the aggression. Like you said, they stuffed the big configuration tank that came out from Skiller, but still kills are.
They stopped, I think is what you said, stopped the tank configuration that came out from Scalar, yep.
Going out from both sides, they're still slowly keeping this payload moving.
He's
Still
freezing.
kills are going out from both sides, they're still slowly keeping this payload moving. Neither team with a huge advantage here.
I mean, they're not.
Now the side of Cole will.
They're not moving the payload, right? The payload's not moving. The defensive team have control, so.
start to push the aggression. Matt will push up, and there goes Mini Diva. Brucein gone fat, forced the Guardian Angel away, and 1 point's gonna get pushed back yet again.
Slow down. Yeah, you just gotta slow down. It's I guess it's the same. If I encounter something, by the way, that we've already discussed, I'm gonna try not to harp on it too much, but like, this level of excitement is something you use for a overtime fight where the winner could sort of, well, not even excitement, but just like the intensity, right? There's like one kill that's happening every couple of seconds. I want to know a little bit more about the context of the fight and where these kills are happening and what the impact of them is. I really want context. So, I mean,
there goes Mini Diva. Brucein gone fat.
There goes Mini Diva. Brucein's down.
Forced the Guardian Angel away, and 1 point's gonna get pushed back yet again.
1 point get pushed back yet again.
Right now from the side of Cole.
Yeah. So also when people say from the side of, it's a time filler, or you're trying to buy time for yourself. I try and avoid that. Yeah, slow it down, break it up. Like I said beforehand, the example of how I cast that team fight outside the first checkpoint is something you really want to try and internalize. Okay, there's a lot of going on. Obviously, the observing there's not a lot of free cam observing. It's mostly first person, which can make casting a little bit different. Yeah, it's definitely filler. Trust me, I used to do it all the time.
Play from them. The configuration tank came out from Scarra, like you said. He ran straight into a big Orisa as Cetrox locked up that kill and shut that one down. And now we see Scalar making the swap over to Zenyatta as well as Frost over to Tracer.
So I don't mind this. You're referring to like the hero switches. You do. I kind of like what you guys are doing. Is like when you make a point or like you refer to someone that someone else has already said. You said like you said, or you know, like it calls back, I suppose, and it keeps that discussion going. I'm pretty happy with that. Although you did mention that was the second time you mentioned that Scalar used his tank configuration and got taken down by the Orisa very quickly. So you mentioned it retroactively twice. So maybe not necessary to do that. Maybe just once is fine.
More than half the time, you know, most Bastions are more than happy to take that fight, but not when the 50% Bongo Supercharger is out to play. Scalar, like you said, have to switch over to Zenyatta. So
50% Bongo Supercharger. It's either a Bongo or a Supercharger, and I've called it a Bongo before, but I call it a Bongo when it's obvious, like as it's happening or it's obvious, right? A 50% Bongo Supercharger, you're missing a bit of information there. You could say the Supercharger is in play, giving that 50% damage boost. Or the Bongo of the Orisa is used, you know. I used it once for Ru Hong because I said he was playing the Bongo like a funeral song or something like that. So. Now, it has been mentioned, Ham. I'm not really going to harp about the observing because it's not really relevant. And I bear that in mind when I sort of look at what casters are talking about. I'm more interested in what they say than sort of when or in what context.
Yada. He's defending DPS though. I mean, between Danye on Junkrat and Matt being on Hanzo himself, you can see what makes it so good. Defensive heroes are so good at dumpstering damage into such a small, choking area, and that's exactly what Junkrat and...
This explanation is theoretically correct and relevant, but the way that you structure this point is not good. You take a lot of time. Like, you guys are taking up a lot of airtime, but I'd say a good 40% of it is just sort of waffle, or you're taking deep breaths, or you're sort of slowing down or elongating, things like that. Just say, look, defense heroes are great. Any AoE damage is awesome because it's very, very hard to break through choke points without taking a lot of damage as an attacking team or something like that. Like, you're stretching your analysis out now into a potentially important exchange where once again Malzahs is dead. So the Orisa's gone. You know, I think we're just losing a lot of the timing is not great. Obviously, you guys are a little bit out of sync. So let me just go back a little bit here.
So good. Defensive heroes are so good at into such a small,
I mean, dumpstering damage is I guess it's okay. Small choking area, choke points.
Exactly what Junkrat and Hanzo are good at. Ultimates and all. There they come, and there goes Malzahs once more.
Okay, so ultimates galore. I guess we did see ultimates. Malzahs is dead. you could maybe be a little bit more specific about that. Like Riptire is enough to claim the Orisa. Mark Pixel because I don't think that Dragon Strike actually did anything, right? This is okay.
Right, there he went by the Riptire that came out from Danye. With
Thank
those
you.
2 picks, again, 1 point will be pushed back and be forced to reset and
Yes.
begin their attack yet again. They took this one very far, probably about 3/4 of the way
Took what very far? The payload. Try and be specific there.
towards the second checkpoint, but ever since then, they've come to a stall, and we have seen a lot of teams stall out here at this second checkpoint. They're
Why?
down to 2 minutes on their attack.
So, like you mentioned, you're referring to trends, or you're referring to things that we normally see. For example, like the Bastion normally getting switched off before that point, or teams normally getting held up here. I really would like you to hit me with a why. And you're kind of doing analysis here, or you're discussing, but you're not sounding conversational, right? You're still sounding like a radio announcer or someone that's kind of going 100 miles an hour. Avoid that. Try and, in your mind, create a distinction between a discussion with your co-commentator and casting a team fight. It'll also make it easier for your co-commentator to know where they can interject. Is Vic here? What's up, Kevin?
Starting to see swaps come over. Winston coming out. Farah coming out. Do you think that this is what 1 point needs to be able to hit this next?
Great. Again, I think it's fantastic that you're asking a very pertinent question. Do you think this is what 1 point needs? I think you could maybe just say, like, wider switch would be enough. And I'm hoping that Panda knocks this one out of the park.
Checkpoint.
It's going to be very hard for Horthig to land these direct rockets. There's not exactly much or many areas for him to hide around. Malzauza looks in for the dive and dies on.
Okay, so you spent like a very small amount of time kind of answering the question. He said, is this what 1 point needs? And then you sort of say that Horthig is going to have a hard time getting these rockets in. Look, you can say yes or no and then say that Horthig is, but like you're not really answering his question, right? And then you spend a couple of seconds on it, and then you're trying to do play-by-play, essentially. Just let it go. Like, if you get asked a question, it's on the play-by-play caster who set you up, who maybe mistimed to set you up. Just try and answer the question, and take an opportunity to do some analysis here, where otherwise you are play-by-play casting, which is obviously not technically your job here anyway, even though I don't doubt that you're able to do it. Let's listen to it one more time.
Farah coming out. Do you think that this is what 1 point needs to be able to hit this next checkpoint?
It's going to be very hard for Horthig to land these direct rockets. There's not exactly much or many areas for him to hide around. Malzauza.
Okay, so you say it's going to be hard for Horthig to hit these direct rockets. Do you mean it's hard for Farah in general to hit direct rockets? Alexa, stop. Sorry. Why? You know, kind of why. Also, yeah, I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like this answer. I suppose you're not really answering it.
Also looks in for the dive and dies almost immediately for it, but they lose Zano and Matt Bassoon, and this is exactly what they did on Oasis Elite to come up huge, and you can see
Who did on Oasis 1 point? You got to say their name. Try and be specific. Don't say they. Really, like, try and avoid pronouns in cases like this. I really want you to refer to that directly.
the kill feed bleeding in red, and that's exactly what's going to give them point B. They're not going to get stuck around here.
Okay, so the kill feed is bleeding red, and that's what's going to give them point B. I mean, no. I mean, they got kills. They did something to get kills to give them the point, and the kill feed is obviously just representing that. So let's go back one more time. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I want to make sure we're sort of being thorough.
They lose Zano and Matt Bassoon, and this is exactly what they did on Oasis Elite to come up huge, and you can see the kill feed.
Okay, so this is exactly what they did on Oasis to come up huge. What did they do in Oasis to come up huge? Do you mean play Pharah Winston? I don't know.
Bleeding in red, and that's exactly what's going to give them point B. They're not going to get stuck around here. They're going to move into point C of Junkertown if another contest doesn't come through. I don't.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like you haven't told me anything, unfortunately, which is a shame because you had a really good chance, in my opinion, to. You could have, and I don't have a problem with you by playing that fight, to be honest, but you're giving up a good chance to explain why this strat works. Like, you get asked why is this the answer, right? So you have a chance to explain this composition. So instead of just telling us what is switching, what they're switching to, sorry, you had a chance to tell us why and why it's effective. And then you don't do that. You had a chance, you sort of try to, and then you don't. And then you go into play-by-play, which is okay. Then you tell us that this is what 1 did on Oasis. But then you don't tell us what that actually was that they did on Oasis. And then you tell us that they're going to get the next point if there's not another team fight. Bro, there's not going to be another full team fight. And I'll tell you why. I mean, look, I mean, like, there's not really a recontest. They might try and stall out with 1 or 2 players, but if that happens, you should definitely keep analysing and not play by play 2 people trying to take the point back. Yeah, so I feel like you missed a good opportunity in this part of the fight. And this is why, by the way, I only do 1 map at a time. I've covered about 5 minutes of, like 3 minutes of this VOD review, or of this map so far.
Don't think they're going to be able to make it there in time.
I don't think anyone will make it back.
Okay, don't tell me what you like. I don't have a problem with people saying like I don't think, but I mean, should kind of be obvious that they're not going to get back. But bro, the fucking Zen is here. He has transcendence, right? The only way that they could possibly defend this, I think, is to have a Zen ult with 6 people there, and they're not going to have either of those things because you know how far back they spawn right now, right? Like a long time. So, like, man, you guys missing opportunity here to really break down this fight.
They should be able to hit this next one. Looks like they might be trying to rush for it. No, I think they're just going to stall out over there. They will hit this next checkpoint. Will decide of 1 point. That's good.
Okay. So, don't take this the wrong way. But in my opinion, your lack of experience or understanding of whether this is a fight you can take just screwed you both out of a good 10 to 15 seconds of good analysis or discussion. Because you literally spent all that time speculating whether they would fight again. That's not your job as a broadcaster. Your job is not to speculate whether this is going to happen. Like, I need you guys to sort of know. I need you guys to be quicker than that. And, like, it's okay as a caster to, in your head, go, oh, what if they'll try and fight this? But what's coming out of your mouth needs to be something else. So we're going to go back a little bit.
They're going to be able to make it there in time.
I don't think anyone will make it back. They should be able to hit this next one. Looks like they might be trying to rush.
Also, try to say next checkpoint. Try to say next one because it's really non-specific.
Rush for it. No, I think they're just going to stall out over.
Like, you're actually having an argument with yourself. Like, oh, they're going to get it. No, I don't think they are. Like,
they will hit this next checkpoint.
Oh, it's frozen again.
This next checkpoint will decide of 1 point. That's going to be 2 for them now. So good start for them here on Junkertown.
Yeah, I mean, avoid for them, using for them like too many times. This is discussion. Like, you still haven't told me why this composition worked for them.
And Horthic made the switch over.
I'm fucking hungry for that analysis. I'm hungry.
To the Spar and Frost over to the Tracer. Seems to be off to a good start, but as we see Horthic going.
Why are you play-by-playing? Like, why are you commentating this at like 7 speed out of 10?
Back, and he's going to make a swap to Genji now.
No, slow it down.
And that's exactly, might be what they need, because Danye swapping. And that's exactly, might be what they need, because
Sloth Amos, thanks for the subscription, bleh. Welcome. I appreciate it very much.
Danye swapping over. Oh, that's not what they need. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Caster's Curse. Horthic will swap over to Genji, and will get his genetic face just ripped off by Danye, who took the swap over to.
What's a genetic face? I don't know what a genetic face is.
This next checkpoint will decide of 1 point. That's going to be 2 for them now. So good start for them here on Junkertown. And Horthic made the switch over to the Spar and Frost over to the Tracer. Seems to be off to a good start, but as we see Horthic going.
As we see is a filler word. Get rid of it. Say, Horthic was on the far right now, switch over to Genji.
Back, and he's going to make a swap to Genji now.
Genji now.
And that's exactly, might be what they need, because
That's exactly, might be what they need. Is it what they need, or isn't it? Why would they switch to this pick right now? And he dies here. Like, it doesn't matter that he dies here. Like, you can literally Winston bubble and res, or you can get this one back. So I think you kind of almost have a little mini pop off here where it's like, oh, I guess there's not what I need. Caster's Curse, haha. I mean, you're trading in You're trading in effective. You're trading in a chance to tell us about why. To sort of.
Anya swapping over. Oh, that's not what they need. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Caster's Curse. Horthic will swap over to Genji and will get his genetic face just ripped off by Danye, who took the swap over to Widowmaker. Fantastic swap for the double sniper defense. And where the payload is, the door not closed just yet, so they still have...
Sorry, okay, so yeah, obviously you don't tell me anything there at all. You tell me nothing. You tell me that the switch to the Widow is great for the double sniper defense. I thought that Danye was already playing Widow, but I could be wrong. But why? Why is this good? Why do you like this? Like, I'm getting a lot of what? Like, you're telling me things, but like the problem is that you gotta understand. Like, the average Overwatch viewer kind of isn't dumb, and then the people that actually watch Open Division stuff are like even less dumb. Like, these guys are actually looking for Open Division content. They're looking for these players that they know. So when you deliver me all this you are delivering me all this stuff that I can see like that he switched. So you're spending so much time telling me stuff that I already know. Hurix, thanks for the subscription, bro. What is up? I appreciate that. What? Tell me why. Tell me why. I can see it. Like, I can see it. Admiral John, big sub. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. I don't deserve to be subbed to, but that's very kind of you anyway. So really try and think about. Let's go deeper, okay? Because people can see this is not radio casting, and trust me, I used to radio cast. I know what that shit was like, and you can paint a vivid picture as a radio caster, but I could see this shit.
Have many openings to make their way to the point, but Malzahn is taking on this Winston.
Nabushi, stop subbing! There is no point, because I'll tell you what, in 2 weeks, I'm just going to go back to not streaming ever again, and all your money's going to be fucking wasted. Thank you. Oh, what's up, Beeposaurus? Okay.
Be very hard. It's a full dive attack here, but with that pulse bomb coming in here early, it's going to proc out Fat's Valkyrie, and surely they should...
Okay, so be careful with that terminology. It's the pulse bomb is going to... Did you say proc out Fat's Valkyrie? I mean, also be careful of using the term proc. I've used it before, but that's like a League of Legends term, and people don't always know what it means. Loop, thank you for... Thanks for the sub. I do appreciate it, but I really do not encourage this behavior. This reprehensible behavior. You did not want the emote. You're full of shit. Okay. So, yeah, you are... I don't know what... I think what you're trying to say is it's like... It's forcing... It's forcing the Mercy ult. I need to listen to this a little bit more.
It is the door not closed just yet, so they still have many openings to make their way to the point, but Malzahn is taking on...
I mean, the door not closed yet. I guess there's something there. It's like there's still many openings to come onto the point. I kind of get what you're trying to say there, but... okay. I get you, Hurix. I get you. Right.
On this Winston could be very hard.
Okay, so so Tracer pulse bombs the enemy Hanzo.
Dive attack here, but with that pulse bomb coming in here...
It's freezing again.
Coming in here early, it's going to proc out Fat's Valkyrie, and surely they should be able to get follow-up.
I don't know what you're trying to say. I actually just don't know what you're trying to say at all. It's also, there's a Transcendence on the ground, which might be worth talking about. This is a team fight, so this might be when you sort of want your play-by-play guy to be casting it. I don't know what... Hopefully the play-by-play caster is on floating camera.
Numbers advantage on 1 point. They will use this as their chance to go in. Self-destruct will fly out high from Brucein, as well as a Dragon Strike coming out across as well from the side of Matt. So
don't do from the side of.
Ultimates coming out all over the place. No kills.
Don't say ultimates coming out all over the place. Be specific or don't say it at all.
Coming out for them though. Orphic able to take out Setrox. More numbers advantage for the side of 1 point off.
I'm really glad that you pointed out a man advantage or player advantage, excuse me, here.
To a good start here in this fight. Orphic, ever since making the swap over to Genji, hot fight there for him. Got his head clicked on as soon as he walked out of the spawn room, but ever since then, 1 point has been on fire. Halfway already to the third checkpoint. We'll have to see what kind of defense Colt can set up. As
I want you to be passing to the analysis guy now. That, like, The fight's over. I want to hear like what happened in the fight. And you're not really telling me. You're kind of recapping it a little bit. You're saying he got clicked, he got headshot at first, and then sort of he came back. But there's a lot of opportunity here.
All right.
Ark of Covenant, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. There's a lot of follows coming in here as well, guys. I have to turn the follow alerts off because it keeps making the sound. That's awesome. Thank you.
Up right here at the end, we see more swaps coming out from the side of Cole. We're getting very close to this third and final checkpoint, though. Our 1 point.
Donnie gonna go and swap over to Tracer, try to get that backline pressure. Setrox, however, stalling hands of Orthix.
Why are you doing this? Pyramid of Grid, thank you for the subscription. Good day. Welcome to whatever this is. Okay. So you guys got mixed up there, didn't you? Because, unless I've gotten your voices mixed up, which I don't think I have, Elite, you talked for too long after the fight, and then you threw Panda into the play-by-play. Kind of want to avoid doing this, if you possibly can. Is that not a sub? Stop! There is no risk to do any of this. Rainwave CC, thank you for the sub. I'm getting too distracted though, guys. I gotta focus. Stop wasting money. All right.
And surely they should be able to get follow-up around the cart now.
With the numbers advantage on 1 point, they will use this as their chance to go in. Self-destruct will fly out high from Bruce, as well as a Dragon Strike coming out across as well.
Okay, so you're getting me a lot of what, but like, first of all, quickly you could have mentioned that the supercharger from Setrox is down, and that's kind of all he got with that one. And that there's a yeah, and there's a okay, I was a bit early on that one. And that the Dragon Strike comes through. I think this is okay, but you can do so much more here because you don't know whose perspective we're on right now. So I don't expect you to talk about what Fat sees, but I want you to be free cam over this fight, and I want you to be telling me who is doing what and where, and if there's time, if it's important. See, Mazasa, trying to get over the middle, does have a Discord orb on in those, so needs to be a little bit careful to go head-to-head with this diva. You know, something like that. Like, this is just all that I can see. I'm just assuming, right? Instead, so try and be player and position specific, like who's doing what and where, instead of there's ultimates going everywhere, which is like, no shit, Sherlock. I see a lot of effects on my screen. Yeah, there's ultimates going everywhere. It's like, if you can't find something to say that adds value or that is valuable, then you probably don't want to say anything, right? What's that, Real Pimp and Panda? Not much, man. Just doing a cheeky VOD review.
From the side of Matt, so ultimates coming out all over the place. No kills coming out for them, though. Orthix.
So, yeah, you mentioned that the ultimates aren't yielding any kills, which is fine. And now we're talking about Orthix. So I think this is where it kind of goes well, right? This is when he kind of starts going ham. I'm pretty sure he just wrecks these nerds without a Dragon Blade.
Able to take out Setrox. More numbers advantage for the side of 1 point. Off to a good start here in this fight. Orthix, ever since making the swap over to Genji, hot fight there for him. Got his head clicked on as soon as he walked out of the spawn room, but ever since then, 1 point has been on fire. Okay,
that's where you should leave it to your analysis caster now, your color caster, and have them explain, and have them sort of say what happened, because you know, bro, like you guys have cast enough to know that these guys are gonna fight again pretty soon. You should in your head have a feeling for how long you have to talk or to not talk. So this is when you're going to allow Panda to break the fight down, talk about the ultimates that we used, hero switches. This is important. We have a Ryan now. We have a Zen ultimate that could be used in the next fight. Dragon Strike was used to no avail. How much time's in the round. I notice that you guys haven't really referred to how quickly or how slowly this push is actually going down. So look at this information. Like there's a wealth of information on the screen that you guys can refer to. But you're not. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not enough to say that, like, to point out that Zenyatta has an ultimate. You just need to tell me if that's important. How important is that? I mean, it's pretty friggin' important. If Orthix can get an ultimate, backing up a Dragon Blade with the Transcendence is just super good, right? Or just like keeping a Genji alive until he gets ultimate. The fact that there's a Reinhardt now, like, playing Reinhardt on this point makes you mad susceptible to Genji in general. There are, a lot of things you could do here.
halfway already to the third checkpoint. We'll have to see what kind of defense Cole can set up. But as they're about to set up...
Yeah, be careful of like, we'll have to see what kind of defense they can set up. It's like, well, yes, we will have to see, won't we? Because we're not going to be seeing anything else. It's not like a bunch of people are going to come out dressed as rainbow fucking unicorns and dance for us. It's like, yes, we are going to see what their defense is like. So, more filler words. Probably don't need that.
Right here at the end, we see more swaps coming out from the side of Cole. We're getting very close to this third and final checkpoint, though.
Okay, so like you mentioned swaps. You shouldn't be talking right now, but you mentioned swaps, but then you don't say what they are. So I guess the audience member may have seen the swap, but doesn't know if they matter or not. Ah, shit. I might just put the meat I got in the fridge. I better do that now. Sorry, one sec. Otherwise, well, probably won't be that tasty. Okay.
Our 1 point.
Danya gonna go and swap over to Tracer, try to get that backline pressure. Setrox, however, falling hands of Orthix.
Yeah, Reinhardt gets dicked by Genji on this point. I mean, there's a trans been used here. I don't think that gets referred to.
Anger gonna have a Dragon Blade here momentarily, and that's exactly what you want. Scalar to come out with that Transcendence to open up more room for...
I mean, Scalar... You said Scalar 2 come out during the Transcendence? I suppose like you're referring to him in the past tense. I'm not sure what this is. Thanks, Pablo Swaggins. Yeah, I mean, you said like that's exactly what they need. Why is it what they need here? I mean, is it that obvious? I don't think so.
For this, unsheathing the Dragon Blade.
Orphan will bring out the Dragon.
I like you pass there. I like you pass at the Dragon Blade. That's a good chance for your play-by-play caster to jump in. You time that really well.
Blade, he'll be able to take out Ravik. Setrox as well. Both big tanks gone down by the Dragon Blade that came out from Orthix. There's no one right now from Cole. They're gonna have to stagger in, but a Primal Rage.
I like that you point out, like you say, there's no one for Cole. No one where? No one on the point? No one on the payload? No one alive at all? Did they just leave their computers and go to KFC? A little bit more specific there.
Big Malzazo back there punching them, keeping them back.
Keeping who back? The Zenyatta. Important to mention that.
Will come back in with just less than 3 meters, a little over 2. But with both of them dead, they will continue to stagger. Here comes Ravik.
I mean, I don't... This is not something that you refer to really, like, in casting. Like, saying a little bit over... You said 3 meters, a little bit over 2. Like, bro, I could... The payload's close. Like, this is just... That's not what you want to be talking about right now.
He's going to get demacked and turn into mini Diva. Citrox will jump into his death as well, and 1 point will take it all the way on their attack. All 3 points for them.
That was...
Okay. Let me try casting this fight. Again, no promises that it'll be any good. Obviously, I'm seeing what you didn't necessarily see casting this fight. But I will still try and, you know, allow for that. Give me some setup time. I'll give myself a little bit of lead in. Okay. So it's quite the struggle to get the payload to this point. But now, you've got to have a feeling that 1 point are starting to get out in front. As soon as he switched to Genji, though, we see Horthic has his head taken off by Danye. This is going to slow things up a little bit for 1 point. But they have a bit of room to set up here before the door shuts. Frost Pulse Bomb, very important. An opportunity here to open up the blue team will be very, very important. Get a player advantage and press that advantage further. This is a critical juncture. Oh, he hits a Pulse Bomb. Perfect. And the recall lets him get back towards his Winston. They can set up another dive if they need to. Now a lot of pressure being applied to the high ground. You can see a lot of damage going down towards this Diva. Transcendence now being forced out of the blue team on the low ground. They realize that this is the time to pull the trigger on that one, but it may not be enough. It's going to be the supercharger taken out. Dragon Strike coming out from a weird angle, but it doesn't seem to bother 1.2 much at all. They're pressuring forward. They've definitely got the fight winner. Now they're just going for the cleanup, and for Horthy, it's just too easy. No one's paying any attention to him. He's getting dash research on Swift Strike, so we can keep going all day long. And now it is time for Cole to set up and get a solid defense here. They're in trouble. They're going to be switching up a little bit, going for the Reinhardt here, maybe trying to control the space a little bit more effectively. It does leave him a little bit susceptible to Horthic getting behind him. Reinhardt not super mobile, and Frost Pulse Bomb once again. 2 consecutive fights, he gets a Pulse Bomb. That's a big stick, and Sectrox can't stand up with that one. Even though he was being healed by Zaizano, it's not enough healing to keep him alive. Burst damage is king against Mercy. 1 point. Only losing Malzahar so far. He's rezzed up. Both tanks are back in the fight. Setrox also being brought back to life. But now Horthy has a Dragon Blade. A big opportunity to cut through these big and bulky tanks. And he does just that. Setrox just gets brought back to life. But the Reinhardt once again is removed. Horthy on fire, causing a lot of problems now. Malzahar, I mean, this is so nasty. Gets in the back corner. There's no chance for Kobe to heal his teammates, let alone get any damage with Malzahar in his face. Great use of Primal Rage. Aggressive play from the Portuguese All-Star. And now the setup on the payload should be pretty straightforward here. Cole going to try and come in and stall out, but there's a Genji there. Malzahar also present, and that's all she wrote. 1 point. Finish off the attacking round here with 1 minute remaining. So, like, do you notice, like, when I mention things, I at least try and give you the why, or try and give you some of the importance of these fights. Mentioning, I think, like a lot of Krankenwagen, thanks for the sub, bro. I really tried to make sure that it was clear that that was a very hard fight for the Reinhardt on the defensive team, right? That guy got killed. He got stuck with a pulse bomb, then finished off, then resurrected, then he got wrecked by a Dragon Blade. So no good. We'll try and mention why. Also, we mentioned the pulse bomb was super important there, right? Like the pulse bomb. It was a big part of why that fight was won, because he got 2 pulse bombs in 2 fights. Tracer just going nuts there, which is like, I don't know how recently this is, if it's beginner meta or not, but like, bruh, pulse bomb, just wrecking them. Getting a pulse bomb stick on a Hanzo to open up the fight there. Yeah, so again, you missed a lot of opportunities to really add value and information for a viewer. There are a lot of just basic stuff. You know, stuff that anyone would know. You really want to try and avoid that. Okay, let's do the second half. I play-by-play caster by trade, but having cast Overwatch since closed beta, I can do both. I've done both before. I've cast events as a color caster. For example, Intel Extreme Masters, Gyeonggi was a color caster for that event.
Games like 1 point that's been on this meta for such a long time, why they always defer towards it. It's so strong of finding the openings that they need, whether it's going to be Kobe or Zeno, who is slightly out of position. Math has been coming up huge, but it's no means of when you lose a healer or 2 before the fight even starts.
That doesn't make any sense. No means. If I'm just going to go back a little bit and listen to that whole point you're trying to make.
Huge, but it's no means of when you lose.
Color is analysis, guys. Sorry. It's like, you can call it an analyst, I suppose.
A healer or 2 before the fight even starts. Now, on the side between Malzahar and Brusen,
oh, there's so much on the side happening here. You know, what is it? Fries on the side? Is it go-go dancers? What is on the side, guys?
Very interested as this series progresses, if Danye is going to take the swap back over to Brigitte to try to counteract this this dive that's coming through. However, as they're coming in.
Okay, so I don't mind that you asked the question. You know, maybe there's a reason for a Brigitte switch here. Like maybe there's like some value in doing that. And then I think you
into this attack elite.
Yeah, I think you sort of kind of make it sound like you're done talking, then you continue, and then I think I hear a sound from elite like he thought he was being thrown to.
They're going to have to.
Are those color commentators are analysts? Same thing, right? Okay, so you have right. So analysis caster, play-by-play caster. Now we can call analysis casters color casters, right? And then there's desk analysts, right? They're different, but I would say an analysis caster could quite easily be a desk analyst. In my opinion, it's the same thing, just different. Yeah. Why are people calling it Brigitte, by the way? That's not how you say it. Chris Puckett, I'm calling you out. He did a segment on the Overwatch League desk where he told the audience how to say her name incorrectly. And then I get people correcting me like, oh man, you say Brigitte so weird. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I literally asked Johnny how to say it, and Zoe as well, who's Swiss. So she obviously knows a little bit about the pronunciation of that in a European fashion. And like people are, guys, like it's not Brigitte. Yeah, no, don't. That's not how you say it. I don't know if Puckett thought he knew how to say it or he didn't care, but there's an Origins video, a Brigitte Origins video, where she says her name. She actually says her own name. Go and listen to that. Yeah. Jeez. Brigetti. Fuck me.
Somehow complete all 3 checkpoints with the time bank.
And I call it Brigitte, because that is as close as I can get to sort of how Johnny and Zoe say it. Brigitte. It's like a hard T. It's not G. It's not Brigitte. It's Brigitte. Brigitte. Yeah. Oh, fuck. That's a big host, isn't it, soon? 1,100 viewers. Jesus Christ. All right. Hello, new viewers. I'm doing a VOD review here. Doing some casting focus. Thanks, soon. Big host.
If they want to feel overly confident going into an extra inning.
Yeah, all 3 checkpoints, along with 1 point taking round 1. So to take round 1 and get all 3 points, that is a big confidence boost, big momentum boost over.
What do you mean to get round 1 and take all 3 checkpoints? What do you mean round 1? Do you mean like finish the map? Because they're kind of the same thing, right? Getting 3 checkpoints is kind of finishing the round. I'm not super sure what you're referring to there. Are you saying like that 1.1 the round because they had time left after they got the checkpoints or whatever? You're mentioning that this is like a feat or quite an achievement, but I don't really understand why it is. You're just kind of saying that it's good. It's like, hey guys, this thing is good. It's good. It's good. Someone asks you, why is it good? You're like, it's good. Yeah, but why? It's good. Okay, all right. You like that. You like that thing. I don't know why you like that thing. You just like it.
Onto the side of 1 point, so we'll see what Cole can come out with while they're on their...
Yeah, avoid like, we'll see what they can come out with. Again, like, yeah, we will see, won't we? We will see what they come out with. Like, that's a banality. It's a frivolous phrase that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Attack, like you said, gonna have to take it all the way. 42 seconds in the time bank isn't the, biggest amount of time ever, but to have a time bank, better than nothing, and because they were able to take...
I don't mind this. You sort of point out, okay, 42 seconds in the time bank. It's not a lot, but it's more than a lot of teams sort of get. So maybe you could do a little bit more to try and explain to me just how good / not good this is. But slightly more specific, perhaps.
Take it all the way. Cole knows that they're going to have to take it all the way just to force another round.
I see. So now I know what you mean. Like they need to finish the map to get another playthrough. So they do know that. I guess that's fine to say.
I also really like...
he's freezing on me, you bastard. 35, 41.
Alzalza as well. I mean, you can see this very veteran tank player coming out, his extensive knowledge of the map itself, sticking on the Winston so that way if there was anybody on that upper Widow's Peak or on the fidget spinner itself, that he can dive up there and just get him down. And Bruceton was always right there with the defense matrix as well, keeping him alive.
So I feel like this stage you're finally telling me what I wanted to hear in the first half when Malzasa started playing Winston. So you say, I don't really have too much of a problem with what you said. You said, here's Malzasa, he's a veteran player, correct. You say he's used his map knowledge. Well, how? I suppose you kind of tell me after. Switching to Winston, making sure he can get up onto the Widow's Peak and all this stuff. Look, just say Winston gives you mobility and allows you to access the high ground. Even if you can't kill a Widow, you can pressure people and try and take control. Remember, Winston is very important for maps with verticality because he creates space, right? He allows you to relieve pressure from people that are trying to play high ground positions. So there's a little bit too much umming and ahhing for my liking. If you could just try and be a little bit more concise with a point which I think is super pertinent and relevant, but you're taking a painful amount of time, in my opinion, to say.
Really opened up the floor for Horthick to focus on getting Dane out of said Widow's Peak time and time again. The attack, however, is going to come out here without a Bastion, but they're going to come out with a...
Is that to open up the floor for Horthick? I think I get what you mean. But remember, you just said that Malzasa is going in the high ground to push the Widow off the high ground, and then you said open the floor. So like it's a little bit like it's a little bit hard to find out what you're exactly trying to say. Wow, man, so many followers. Thank you so much, guys. It's awesome.
double sniper. I'm very interested to see how the ball and chain bacon grease combination comes out in between Cetrox and Kobe for their attack.
So the ball and chain bacon grease combo, I mean, that's fine. I don't know what bacon grease is. I haven't heard that. Bacon grease? I haven't heard that one yet. But again, if you say you're interested to see something, I think it's okay to say this, but unless you tell me why you're interested to see this, then it's just filler. It's like, I'm interested to see this because I have never seen a team play this. Or I'm interested to see this because this is a strat that every team should have down pat at this point. You know, see a little bit more information enhances the validity of your point by, you know, a large amount.
No sailboat coming out from the side of...
Okay, so again, you're mixing sailboat and pirate ship. Just try and use one. I don't mind you sort of saying pirate ship, but because it's a new half, just say, you know, the pirate ship, there's no Bastion here to, you know, give them sort of presence on the payload.
Cole, oh, big halt there, Danya.
Okay. 36-23. Still freezing on me.
Now for their attack, double snipers for the side of Cole. Like you said, no sailboat for them. They will get this payload moving. And coming out from the defense, we see double snipers coming out as...
So I'm glad that you didn't mention this kill on Mart because it just gets rezzed up, right? So you should be conditioned to expect this to not be overly important.
Well, from the side of 1 point, Matt got his head clicked on, but he'll come back into the fight there for that resurrection. They'll get this payload moving, and they'll set up right here at...
Who? Like, and you're also like your past and present future tense is mixed up. Like, you're saying they'll get this payload moving. It's like, who is they, first of all? And the payload is moving. It's been moving the whole time. So if you're going to say they will get this payload moving around the corner, like, yeah, again, it doesn't mean much, does it?
At the bridge is where we normally see the fence come out, and one...
Okay, that's great. I kind of like this because for a viewer watching the game, you need to tell them, like, okay, now if you were kind of just half watching, now you're really watching. Okay, right, the bridge. This is where the fight normally begins. This is where the defensive team normally refuses to give any more ground. That's great. You don't have to be a color caster to say this. You can say it. You can fit it in there. So kudos for saying this. Just tighten up the specificness of it for me. That's all.
1 point, but again, as we see up there in the top right, as Matt gets taken out, numbers advantage will lie. Never mind us.
Yeah, okay, so numbers advantage. You're about to say there was a numbers advantage, and then you said never mind. It's not a terrible thing to do, but if you're a little bit quicker, you would have seen that happen, and you wouldn't even have had to say numbers advantage. Of course, it's a real world, ICVOP. Of course.
Frost gets taken out as well, but a good res from Fat will bring him back in.
Yeah, Mercies are on the...
I don't feel bad about you throwing here, but like you guys need to realize that this is still a fight. So if you take the foot off the pedal too much when the fight is just about to become, like the engagement is just about to actually happen, then you might be compromising a little bit on an opportunity to do some solo play-by-play, which is obviously what we as play-by-play casters live for, right?
On the board, but it's Fat that gets a free resurrection on a Frost, so a Widowmaker is going to be preferred for the side of their defense.
Now for the side of their defense, so you've done a couple of things. You've said for the side of, and you've said there without referring to anyone specific. I kind of like what you're saying. You know, 1 point opting to resurrect. You said that the Widowmaker is preferred. There's maybe a little bit more of a specific way you could say. You could just say 1 point value having the Widowmaker alive. Very much at this point, you know, if they're going to go for the resurrect on that.
Probably a little bit of a homage to why their spawn room is so close, not needing the resurrection right there. Danier, though, gonna go ahead and find that headshot immediately onto Frost, but Horthic will find the Dragons onto 2. Defense looking good.
Guys, you guys are saying, like, will find a lot. He'll find the headshot. I mean, bruh, he already, you know, you can use that, but just, like, there's other ways of sort of describing a kill, and I think this is actually one of the biggest challenges for casters. The blue team name, I have to ask Dane about it because it's Polish. I see, yeah, like if I see STWO on a word, I'm thinking that's Polish. Yeah, so he's finding kills. It's kind of okay as long as you don't overuse it. Is it coalescence? Is that what is it coalescence in Polish? That would be too convenient, right?
There's a big dragon strike there from Ortho. Yeah, like you said, we start to see it's just kills coming out from both sides. Complete chaos, right?
Don't do that. It's never complete chaos. It's never complete chaos. You are the broadcaster. You are the play-by-play caster. Nothing is chaos to you. Everything is, like almost everything is something that you can pierce through. You can pierce through this chaos and you can deliver the viewer the understanding of what's going on. Because if you can't do that, then you're not doing your job. There was one time where I flipped out about so much stuff happening. It was on a Lijiang Tower match where like, it was like a Mayhem game, Mayhem Fusion, because like literally the kill feed filled up with 10 things at once and I squealed, right? And just was silly about it because there's no realistic way that, you can sort of talk about that stuff, but you can, like, it's not, there's never chaos. And if there is chaos, you're about to explain it to me. You're not going to use that as an excuse not to break down what happened.
Now it's just Fat in here. Fat keeping it in here with Scalar. They'll jump back on to the payload and defend this one. But yeah, it's just been a bloodbath since this one has got underway. It's been fights nonstop to the end with neither team coming out real big. But now we see the Kaid.
Well, you just told me, like... oh, thanks for the definition, Pinkstar. Right, so, I mean, you just told me, like, it's just been fighting, it's just chaos, it's just stuff like that. It's like, that is so non-specific, so general. Again, there's so much airtime that it's just being wasted, in my opinion. And then you're saying, like, both these teams are fighting and no one's getting out on top. That's not correct at all, is it? Because look at these motherfuckers. These sweaty boys. They're about to get to the checkpoint, and 1 point are all sort of respawning back in. So there is a team that comes out on top, because if you trade 1 for 1 in these fights, you are winning because you spawned way closer. So you really need to make sure that you make that clear. It's lazy. It's lazy and frankly just incorrect to say that no one's coming out on top there. These are what I call platitudes. I am not a fan of it.
Moving, and they'll set up right here at the bridge is where we normally see the defense come out, and 1 point, but again, as we see up there.
And 1 point, are you going to say something about 1 point and then you say but again?
In the top right as Mag gets taken out.
Are you, yeah, okay, you're telling, in the top right, are you referring to the kill feed and its location on the screen? I'm not sure, either way.
Numbers advantage will gets taken out. Numbers advantage will lie. Never mind as Frost gets taken out as well, but a good res from Fat will bring him back in.
Okay, so good res from Fat, brings it back in. Now we pass over. Fucking hell, let's swing it again. Twitch, fix your shit.
Yeah, Mercies are on the board, but it's Fat that gets a free resurrection on a Frost, so a Widowmaker is going to be preferred for the side of their defense. Probably a little bit of a
homage.
Why their spawn room is so close, not needing
an homage to why their spawn room is so close. I don't know what that means. Wow, what's wrong with Tacoma? Yeah, I want to play it later on. You know?
The resurrection right there. Danier, though, gonna go ahead and find that headshot immediately onto Frost, but Horthic will find the Dragons onto 2. Defense.
So, yeah, so Horthic finds Dragons.
Strike there from Horthic, yeah.
Blue team getting a couple kills. They're looking pretty good here, to be honest with you.
Complete chaos right now.
So, I mean, it's not quite kills coming out from both sides. It's a Mercy here who could resurrect, but it will be risky to do so because of, like I said, it's almost off cooldown. Yeah, there is relevance to this fight.
Fat in here, Fat keeping in here.
See, the res just timed out, so that's important. You might have missed that, but Fat wanted to try and resurrect there, but the player just respawned.
They'll jump back on. Keeping in here with Scalar, they'll jump back on to the payload and defend this one. But yeah, it's just been a bloodbath since this one has got underway. It's been fights nonstop to the end with neither team coming out real big. But now we see the Kaid.
I don't know what coming out real big means. Yeah, maybe just try and be more specific for me on what that even means.
Of the side of Coliesto, keeping this payload moving. Oh, and Frost will get taken out. So again, down a man. We'll see what kind of defense can come out from the side of 1 point. Scalar will hook Kobe in. Also, just a tip as well. I'm trying to work on this. Avoid using a man advantage or down a man. We'll try and sort of work on player
Just because I think, you know, I had to learn this because I cast Gregory, obviously playing a fair bit. And the last thing I want to do is misgender her by accident because someone, or there will be people that get very upset by that. And obviously I don't want to misgender her anyway. And there are plenty of girls that play Overwatch. So if you, especially if you don't know, you are covering your, I think you're covering your ass a bit if you just try and make sure you don't make too many gender specific references unless you know the gender of the players. It's something that maybe not a thing in sort of traditional sports so much because you can tell. In Overwatch, a little bit different. So just a small thing. It's not an SJW thing. Don't freak out. It's for the sake of correctness or accuracy.
But as we see Danye gone and Orphic with a lot of kills there, the Dragon Strike will...
I think with a lot of kills there. Yeah, it's true. You're absolutely right. He's actually fucking going ham. So now you could actually get excited. Now you could actually start getting ham, but you've been at the same sort of volume the whole time. So now you leave yourself no headroom. You're already at like a 10. So when like a 10 worthy play happens, then there's no way of you to make it distinct. We ask in our team sheets provide preferred gender pronouns. That's good. That's good.
We'll come across him, Matt, to try to even this one up, but it's still Orphic. A couple kills are able to come out there for Matt, but as of right now,
okay, so you actually, you say it's still Horthic, and you did what I was hoping you'd do actually, you know, all the time, is that you took a breath, and you came down a little bit to sort of start your next sort of point. That's good. That's what I wanted to see. Unfortunately, it's still Horthic doesn't really explain much. And then you got to talk about Mart getting kills here.
The payload is stalled right here at this first checkpoint.
Stalled.
And I don't throw to your color caster here. You got to own this fight as a play-by-play because this shit is still going.
Defense is coming through and it's stalling out wonderfully. Brucein will find two of his.
So because then you know we get the defense is coming through and it's stalling out wonderfully, and it's true, but. I'm getting a lot of what and not a lot of why.
Self-destruct as well, and that's one point that will stop this point from being captured.
That's one point that will stop this point from being captured. Doesn't make any sense.
Beautiful stuff coming through of the solo heal of Fat getting
so beautiful stuff again.
That early Valkyrie as well, so that way it was the over-sustainability to stuff the attacking team, shaving off quite...
What do you mean by stuff the attacking team? No, you could throw to the color at the end of the fight. I think there was that self-destruct was still important. I think it's a slightly early throw. Shall I try cast this? I can try. It's a little bit hard, like to do properly. I feel, but
before they can even engage a fight,
and they're already down to 60 seconds. So scary to be in. Danye will be.
Well, it's not about me. I'm not trying to.
He's been coming up on the 1v1s when Frost has been
I
now
can give it a go.
On Tracer trying to get back there. It's been very hard to sustain life as a team where the payload is. Oh, but that's going to give you a little bit of help. A headshot with the self-destruct that finds a kill and a half. Fantastic work thus far.
And it's a lot of kills coming out now. For the side of Polyesto, we see a Rez come back in. The Scalar came back in, but he's not going to be able to do it all himself. It's just him and a mini diva. Now it's just him.
I skipped ahead. I realized that.
He will get taken out. They will be able to hit the first check.
I realized I skipped ahead a bit, but that's fine.
Scalar will hook Kobe in, but as we see Danye gone and Orphic with a lot of kills there. The Dragon Strike will come across from Matt to try to even this one up, but it's still Orphic. A couple kills are able to come out there for Matt, but as of right now, the payload is stalled right here at this first checkpoint.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine, Panda. If that, I don't know, I've never heard that term before. They got stuffed, but that's fine. Okay, let's try this. 30 out of 3. Let's give it 15 seconds or so, maybe a little bit more.
Oh, and Frost will get taken.
Okay. Blue team, very close to the objective here. Done it with the flank as well. A lot of pressure being put on the Orisa, which is definitely the pillar of solidarity for 1 point. They need Mazasa to stay alive. Now the Hanzos are popping off. Horthy gets a quick double. Dragon Strike through the payload. This forces 1 point away, but is that going to be enough for blue team? They're taking cover behind the boxes right now, and that does allow them to get a resurrect. Rafix is back in play. Gets the resuit now. Hulk used to tile of 1 point together, but Brucein comes in with a huge self-destruct. That is going to be a fight win gong for 1 point. There's no coming back from losing your players. 3 of them all to one self-destruct at such a crucial juncture. Now things are getting tough. Now the blue team really have to set up again and try and accrue some of these ultimates all over again. Kobe, obviously now having switched to the Zenyatta, we know that it's going to be quite a while before we see a transcendence from him. Mart having used a Dragon Strike. Now, they kind of need to grind this next fight out. Need to be aware of Horthic's Dragon Strike. Horthic actually finds an early pick on towards Mart, and he finds Lizano as well. There's no chance for blue team to advance anymore. Mercy giving up her life to get a resurrect, not exactly worth it here if you're trying to make progress as a blue team, especially when you're taking so much poke damage right now. Horthic, just peeking around the side, is forced to use lunge to escape there. So cleverly, Dunyan trying to keep track of him there on that Widowmaker. Frostus wants to flank and be aggressive right now. He doesn't want to commit too much. Holt is going to be used though, try and follow up the hook of Scalar, but it's a little bit too far out of range, and Mart will be given a stay of execution. There is a supercharger here for Marzasa. That 50% damage boost is going to be crucial now, as they're going to have to cut through blue team, who will be doggedly pursuing this first checkpoint. They've been held at bay so far. Horthic comes through with a Dragon Strike. In fact, it's a tale of two dragons, but once again, the self-destruct steals the show. Rafix finds the one kill, but he does manage to get himself the supercharger. That damage increase is now going to be removed. Danye removed there by the Roadhog, and Rafix now just going to try and clean up on the payload here. You can see the Discord Orb making it so easy to cut straight through the Piggy, and Rafix takes down the Roadhog. Finally, the blue team actually have a chance to break through and get that first checkpoint. It'll only be a small increase on time, but it's going to keep them in the game. Or something like that, you know what I mean? So like, I'm trying to like vary the speed of like the casting. I'm also trying to like talk about the importance of certain things, you know, and that variation allows you to like make certain elements of the fight distinct or not distinct. That was a bit messy from me. Obviously, there was a bit of misspeaking a couple times. You know, I said damage reduction instead of damage increase or something like that. It's a bit weird to cast like this, especially with no sound, but yeah. Remember, like, the game is in front of you. It's a script. It's all there, right? But a good shoutcaster doesn't look at the top piece of paper on this script, right? You dig. You look for what's below the surface. You look for stuff that, like, if you sit there and you commentate, you have to be aware of things that, some things are going to be obvious to everybody, new and old viewers. Some things are only going to be obvious to, like, diehard viewers and not to new people. And then you can talk about them and then you can remind people. But if you were going to sit there and tell people something they're already being told, you are wasting your time, you are wasting the viewer's time. You're better off, and I say this look out of the kindness of my heart, but you're better off just being muted because you need to add value. The whole point of having a broadcaster is to add value. It's not to clog up airspace with platitudes and words that don't mean anything. You need to give an audience member a reason to listen. Otherwise, we can sit here and we can come to our own conclusions. Thoughts on solo casting for practice? I think better practice is doing a review like this. Even if no one's watching your VOD review, right? Just record yourself reviewing your casting. You can solo cast, which is fine. It's not really the same. I don't think it's the best practice, but, you know. Add value.
They will hit the first checkpoint after. Oh no, they come in with the contest at less than.
Okay, so even I didn't think that there would be a recontest here. So this is fair enough to be surprised.
As Malzaza jumps in, and Orthic will get the first kill. So
again, if you guys had a mini map, you probably could have, like we have the Overwatch League, you probably could have seen, you could have told whether they were going to refight or not. So I'm not gonna give you shit for that. That's fine.
Will lie with the side of 1 point, but.
Wow, I've successfully gone through 12 minutes of this VOD.
But now they'll come back with kills on the side of Cole. And
I don't know, an hour and a half? What's the time? Yeah, like 90 minutes.
On top of this fight, Zanya will give that res there. Matt will come back into the fight, whole hog out from Scalar, but might have been at a lost cause as he gets taken out. That was a big contest because they were able to shave it all the way down to almost overtime, but in the end, they are able to hit the first checkpoint, but still never, just never-ending defense and never-ending aggression coming out from the side of 1 point to force.
I don't dislike that team fight. I think that was a pretty good team fight cast. You just said never-ending aggression and never-ending defense. What does that mean? We're not doing the whole VOD. We're literally just doing this map. We're literally just doing this map. All right, so yeah. All right. Let's go back, and I'm not going to cast this one because I do want to listen a little bit closer to you casting this fight, and I'll probably just stop it a couple times. of things that I like or maybe I don't like.
It took them 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a lot of time, but they are able to hit it in the end.
First of all, I missed this. You told me it took him 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You performed a quick mathematical operation in your head. You subtracted 30 seconds remaining from 4 minutes, and I'm happy that you did that because you just added value, right? Because an audience member doesn't have to go and calculate like how much time this took. You just told them it took 3.5 minutes. So they're like, oh, there you go, 3.5 minutes. It's simple. It seems really simple, right? But this is what you have to do as a broadcaster. You have to justify your position by adding value. So I'm happy with that.
And here is you hear the 30 seconds remaining for the side.
So like depending on whose perspective you're on, but again, as a play-by-play caster, I would rather you were free cam flying around. There's no point being like if you're on first person, you're gonna miss it. So if you're on free cam, you might even see this attempt at recontesting.
Oh, but they will hit the first checkpoint after. Oh no!
Sorry, you were so sure. You must have been watching Mart, I suppose. Try and get free cam. So oh no, this is fine because you didn't know. I'm not really gonna come down on you about this.
Comes in with the contestant less than a meter as Malzaza jumps in.
Okay, like you're a less than a meter. I think it's fine. I think you're better off jumping into the play-by-play casting and without talking about like, how close it is. Just a personal feeling there. So Marty's down early. That's pretty big. What about the ultimates? You know, we just had a bunch of ultimates popped. Can refer to that.
And Orthic will get the first kill, so numbers will
Orthic will get the first kill, so when numbers will lie. Yeah, see, this is the problem with, like, by the time you finish saying numbers will lie with 1 point, there's just 2 kills immediately. Like, if you're gonna do that, Orthic gets the kill. It's 6v5. 6v5. You know, you do another mathematical operation in your head, you know what I mean? But you took so long to say as a man, like there's a player advantage, you know, I'm even doing it. The player advantage that you lost is now no longer relevant. Like this is how quickly information in Overwatch becomes irrelevant in a team fight.
Kills of their own will the side of Cole, and despite a last-minute contest, it looks like they will come out on top of this fight. Zanya will get.
I mean, it looks like blue team will come out on top of this fight. Yeah, probably don't need to sort of conject on that. There's probably still, you probably just want to stick with the fight instead of saying it looks like someone's going to win. That might just be an opinion thing, to be honest.
Get that res there. Matt will come back into the fight. Whole hog out from Scalar.
All right, so like it seems like you're a little bit behind because the whole hog was being used and he died, and then you mentioned that there was a whole hog. So, bro, if he dies, don't mention the whole hog. Just don't mention it. Just say that like. Scalar taken down during whole hog. You know what I mean? But watching it, it looks like you're, you know, a couple seconds behind.
But might have been in a lost cause.
So whole hog, but it might have been in a lost cause. Obviously, when you already just said that, it looked like blue team was going to win the fight. So it was definitely in a lost cause, and you need to say it definitely. It was definitely in a lost cause. Kaizoku, thanks for the subscription. I appreciate that. You guys shouldn't sub to me though, because like I really don't stream. I stream like once a blue moon. So I really appreciate that. I'm sure there's, yeah. Thank you. That's all. I'll only say it once. I appreciate your support. Okay. Right.
He gets taken out. That was a big contest because they were able to shave it all the way down to almost overtime, but in the end they are able to hit the first checkpoint, but still never just never ending defense and never ending aggression coming out from the side of.
Yeah, like you're just throwing words at me. Never ending defense, never ending aggression. You can give me like a little bit more information
point to force yet a less than 1 meter contest there.
The Scalar was more than happy to come in there with that recontest with the whole hog as well, trying to get a couple picks as well. I mean, you saw Malzaza almost getting enough opening for Horthic to get more than a steadway on to that defending point, finding Math, his brethren on Hanzo. The Scalar swapping onto Zenyatta is going to give them a little bit of help as well. That Harmony Orb to stay on Horthic as he dives in is definitely the sustainability that Genji needs in this current.
I'm happy with this. I'm really happy with you explaining this Zenyatta switch. Really happy with this. This is like the what is the Zenyatta switch. The why is exactly what you're doing right now.
State of the meta to try to deal with Danye, but 1 point itself needing to stand here strong as they move and find the recontest.
1 point's going for engage.
That's good. I think I don't know if recontest is actually a word. I think I've used it by accident once or twice as well. The throw is good. You know you can't catch the fight. You know, like you can't just switch to the play-by-play in the team fight. So you throw when you see a fight's happening. I'm glad you didn't derail your point because you're making a very important point, a very good point. So a big thumbs up. That's really good.
In from the back, they went into the backside and they tried to engage this.
Who went into the backside? Who? Individuals or a team? Who?
My self-destruct's gonna come out right here in this tiny little area, not able to catch anyone with it though. But as this one continues on, still Cole coming out on top as we see the kill feed fill up with Matt's name. Both.
Okay, so yeah, I think that the play-by-play here is pretty good. You mentioned the self-destruct used in tiny area. I think that there's value there. Let me just go back a little bit. There was a point I just forgot what I was going to say. I hate that.
Catch anyone with it though, but as this one continues on, still Cole coming out on top as we see the kill feed fill up with.
Oh yeah. Try not to direct the audience's attention to the kill feed, I guess. Like, you're casting the game, you're not casting the kill feed. And when you refer to something on the kill feed, I think you can do it sometimes. Like, the kill feed is one-sided right now, you know what I mean? I think that's okay. But if you're saying, as we see the kill feed, bruh, you're not watching that kill feed, are you? You're watching the game. Just avoid or limit references to the kill feed.
Matt's name, both these Hanzo players playing very well. Now it's just Bruce in here.
Both these Hanzo players playing very well. I think you can do a bit better than playing very well, or at least you can vary it up. Like having a big impact, right? That feels like it says more than playing very well. Like what is playing well as a Hanzo player? Do you have time to explain what that is? Probably not. Like, are they doing good by not dying? They're getting fat dragon strikes. They're getting lots of storm bows. No. Having a big impact is a great way of saying all of that without having to explain the finer points of what is a good. It's just too generic. Playing really well is too generic. Unless you're going to explain what you mean by that afterwards, don't say it.
Diva, he'll get D-Mech, Mini Diva in here on the point, will get taken out, and again, Cole will come out on top. I don't know if they'll be able to hit this checkpoint off of this.
Okay, now you're doing this again. So now we're going back to like being unsure if there'll be a recontest in this fight. There either is or there isn't. There is no, I don't know, maybe, but there is some times where you can be speculative. I use it when I'm critiquing behavior of a player. Like, oh, I'm not really sure why he flanked the right side instead of the left. You know, when you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, I think it's very important when you're critiquing pro players and you're not a pro player yourself. Sometimes it's good to, you know, not do that. But here it's like, I don't want this. This is not the casting minigame that I want you to get into every time we get close to a checkpoint, is by speculating if they have enough time. If you know, you say yes or no. If you don't know, don't mention it. Don't refer to that. Just don't. Just wait until the next fight starts. You cover yourself here. You don't sound like you don't have to be wrong now. You know, you're not going to be wrong. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you know you don't know.
They might be able to come in and force a contest just like we.
Now, I'll be really annoyed if, again, the whole lead up to this payload getting to the checkpoint is you guys discussing whether you think that they'll get to the checkpoint. But if it does, I'll let it go because we've already discussed it, right?
Saw at the last checkpoint, but at the moment, Cole, with a strong start since hitting that first checkpoint, about to hit this second one.
It's not. I mean, it's not a strong start, right? Because they started slow. Strong start since hitting the checkpoint is like, well, yeah, I guess. It's, yeah.
Malzauza, he's hanging.
So I think you guys didn't do the thing I was worried you would do, which is good.
With a strong start since hitting that first checkpoint, about to hit this second one.
Malzauza, he's hanging around the side. He wants to try Foss. He's gonna come in here, get the recontest, so that way the dive defense can make a standing on this point for the Dragon.
Make a stand.
Blade of Horthic to come out, finds Kobe.
Whoa,
Finds 3 now.
yes!
Big 3K there from Horthic and able to take out Setrox as well. Huge fight for the side of 1 point and huge fight for.
It's good. The throw was good. That's a pretty risky throw, right? You're hoping that your play-by-play caster is like ready to pick up like midway through a fight, but it came out really well. Horthic's a fucking beast. Always has been. I remember watching him at World Cup last year. That was so sick. Yeah, I like that you refer to the dive defense. You're a little bit non-specific when you're referring to Malzasa's positioning. Malzasa around the side, he's going to try. I think you kind of cut yourself off there, so we're going to go back a little bit and see what you said.
Rocks as well, huge fight for the side of 1.
No, a little bit further, please.
With a strong start since hitting that first.
With a strong start since hitting the first checkpoint, about to hit this checkpoint.
He's hanging around the
Malzasa, he's hanging around the side. I mean, more importantly, Frost is in. I mean, if you missed that, that's fine.
side. He wants to try Foss.
He wants to try what? What does he want to try? And then you switch to Frost. Like, you're already referring to Frost, who just recalls right now. So it's almost like if you're too late to catch Frost, there's no point mentioning him, right? Because he recalls out now. The Frost point is not relevant. Now the Malzassa point is once again relevant. What's he trying to do? So
He's going to come in here, get the
he's going to come in here, get the recontest.
So that way the dive defense can make a standing.
So that way the dive defense can make a standing. I mean, that was a little bit fast. It was a little bit fast, but it's true. But also, dive defense can make a standing. Now, I'm pretty sure you jump from this concept to another one without breath. So you actually do something that I was being critical of Elite for doing.
On this point for the Dragon Blade of...
Yeah, make a standing on this point, and then he cut for the Dragon Blade of Horthic, I guess.
Horthic to come out, finds Cole.
To come out. Shut up, Alexa. Shut up.
Alexandra Pale, right?
Don't make me put you back in your box.
Crystal Man, right?
Alexa, for the love of God, stop.
Obi finds 3 now.
Big 3K there.
So it finds 3 now, and then my issue with this Elite is that you just kind of repeat him. Big 3K. It finds 3 now. Then you say big 3K. No worries, Luke. Peace out, man. Thank you for the sub, bro. I appreciate it. Good to have you here.
From Horthic and able to take out Cetrox as well. Huge fight for the side of 1 point and huge fight for Orthic. Make this swap over to Genji. Team kill bell is gonna ring. We'll get a replay of this.
Wow, a replay? Broadcast GG fucking killing the game here with this extra production value. Spicy. No one else does this online, by the way. It's just sick. I didn't think me and ZP were even able to do it.
Big Dragon Blade that came out for Orthic. He brought it out, dove up onto the bridge, was able to take out the supports with a huge play there from Orthic. Just saved that next checkpoint, and they're down to 30.
I'm very impressed with this. This is really nice. Good job, guys.
Seconds left on their attack.
I need to watch more of this.
30 seconds left on their attack. Cole.
Never leave 1 point.
Do you know how hard it is to do replays like this? It's actually really hard without a mad setup. And spicy. Pog champagne indeed. Good job, guys.
Out of a defense contestation when you have Malzauza on your team. This Winston player is so thirsty for the recontest of the card.
Yeah, let's try and eliminate recontest from your vocabulary. It may not be a word, and it is. You can do more than just using that lazily.
He has the Primal Rage to take the fight into his scientific Primal Raging hands.
Just to say, to come back and contest. Yeah, I don't like recontest. This is a personal thing, by the way. You might decide that you're fine with it, and then you have my blessing. I don't love it, though. I'm not sure if it is actually a word.
So it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard?
The side of the attacking
For the
team,
side
you
the...
see
Okay. We've talked about the side of.
the swap for Danier on Afera to try to land the splash damage, and he does just that scalar out of the way. That's the kill that you need.
I like this. I think the swap from Danier to try and land the splash damage, it's correct. Yep.
Well, it's going to be interesting as this one gets over right now.
That's so good.
With 2 kills right at the gate and bringing out the big Primal Rage. This is off to a big start
What's off to a big start, and what's a big start?
for the side of
Why are we starting? I mean, we're kind of ending, right?
1 point, but they're still on the point, and here are Cole. It's just Danye Malzaza in here as well. The Valkyrie comes out from...
Okay, I like that you said who was there. This is like take it another level, right? You're telling me like who's actually in position. You do something that I have. You do something that I do. Elite, we're like kindred spirits. We say as well, as a filling word. Don't do that. There's something that I'm really trying to stop doing as well. As well doesn't actually really mean anything. And if you're really trying to use it, it is a word, but older English, not very common. Thanks for that, Strippin. Well, it's in the dictionary. Then you can say it, in my opinion. I think you can say it then. Yeah, it's not for me to decide to change meanings of words. So do it to your heart's content. Thanks for that, guys, for digging that out. Right, so yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned who's here, right? Because we're in a first-person mode, and we don't really know, like, I can't tell, like, anything that's going on right now, like, from this, like, this. Obviously, I paused it, right? But like, is that Cetrox? I think it is, right? Like, old mate here, you know. You know, he's got a sword. You know, I don't really see what's happening on the periphery of the fight. So telling me who's there is nice. Maybe you're in free cam and telling me that, but that's really good.
Danye flying up high above, shooting out these rockets. It looks like Cole may be able to come out on top, but another Dragon Blade will come out from Orthic, and this may spell the end.
Celtic's so fucking
Cole,
good.
it will overtime, will burn down. No, they'll come in for a last contest at the last second, but they will.
I think this is good play-by-play, by the way. I'm going to get back to the start of the fight and just try and dig into it a bit more.
Shooting out these rockets. It looks like Cole may be able to come out on top, but another Dragon Blade will come out from Orthic, and this may spell the end for the side of Cole. It will overtime, will burn.
So I think like another Dragon Blade comes out from Horthic. This may well spell the end for Cole. It will. Give me a breath. Give me a break there. Like, you're almost like asking a question and then answering yourself. So don't say, this may spell the end, it will. It's like, are you asking a question? Or like, is there any sort of suspension of disbelief there? You know what I mean? It's the same as saying, will it be enough? No, it won't, straight away. It's like, it looks like this may spell the end. Take a breath. It will. And at least give me a moment of tension or a moment of uncertainty.
Down. No, they'll come in for a last contest at the last second, but they will both get taken now. Overtime is burning down, and time is going to...
Okay, so at that point, I really want you to be aware that, like, the game is already over. Like, after that Dragon Blade, it's done. And you should know this, right? Because there's one player who's over here. Like, there's no way he's going to get towards the payload. So try not to say overtime is ticking down. In this case... First of all, like, it's obvious if overtime's ticking down, but I've done this before myself. I sometimes just refer to that. But, I mean, don't worry about overtime. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean shit. The only reason there's overtime is because there was a player there just at the last second or whatever. So, just, if you know, right? And do you know? Then tell me. You probably should know that it's over by there. Try not to speculate about this kind of stuff too much. Again, remember, speculation... I think I really try and reserve for giving players a benefit of the doubt. Outside of that, you're the authority, you're the voice, you're the expert, presumably, you're the play-by-play caster or the analyst. You know, and if you don't know it, you don't say you don't know it. The overtime wick is burning. Yeah, but I did that too. Yeah, see, like someone does it as well. I think that's fine, but that you could say. I think you could say that like when it's relevant, right? When like there's going to be a fight that's occurring in overtime. If there's not, then.
A run out for Cole, and 1 point will take the win on Junkertown.
A fantastic recontest over and over and over again, and I'm probably going to sound like a...
From who? Who is doing it? I mean, I know, it's 1 point, right? You need to say that, though.
Broken record not only to you, Elite, but to you it's sitting at home as well. This dive defense...
I love that you just did that. I love that you referred to... You talked to me. You actually just spoke to me right then. Not that your casting gives any great deeper meaning necessarily, but that you referred to me as the person sitting at home. This is actually something I wish I did a little bit more. Let's go back, 43-12.
Over and over and over again, and I'm probably going to sound like a broken record not only to you, Elite, but to you it's sitting at home as well.
So you broke the fourth wall, you admit you might sound like a broken record, but it's okay to repeat something if there's a reason why you're repeating it, right? There's a reason why there's relevance. So like, yeah, so I don't mind, my point is, sorry, that didn't come out very well. If you're repeating something, you're telling me why you're going to such lengths to make the point, and that means you are giving emphasis. And when I go away from this game, you will have just talked to me directly, which is great for a viewer, and I will now know why you're repeating this thing, or why this thing comes up so much, and what the importance is about it.
Dive defense, how comfortable 1 point is staying on dives. They are really making a showing for why it's still a part of the meta. There's that 3K that we caught.
Yeah, so I love this. Like you repeat it, you're talking about a dive defense for 1 point, right? Maybe you can go a little step further and tell me why it works so well. Because I think throughout, I think you mentioned, the only time you mentioned the purpose of a composition switch was Malzassa accessing the high ground on attack to get Widowmaker off. And even that I thought was a little bit wishy-washy. But I want you to tell me, like just despite the change of the meta or whatever, like why is 1 Point using this? Is this just like a comfortable comp for them? Is this something that they just feel like it suits them? Because Mazasa is obviously a big Winston aficionado and has been for a long time. His performance on like Cloud9, for example, he was just like Winston all the way. He was just so sick. Maybe he prefers not to play Orisa here or whatever. Give me a little bit more. Yeah, that's right. So Bella Cinderella points out that I had a moment. I try and break the fourth wall all the time. I try and make sure there is no fourth wall. I really try and interact with the viewer. You know, the other day I asked if the audience wanted to play a game, and I kind of waited to get a reaction from them. We did like the guest at McCree. That was in week 4 or stage 4, I think. So yeah, tell me why. I think the next level for you guys, there's a bunch of stuff actually, so we can sit and discuss it now because I'm probably finished here. Think about what you're saying. These filler words have got to go, because if you eliminate these filler words, it's especially for you, Elite, you will have time. You won't get caught out by saying a player is still alive after they've just died, right? If you can like just refine what you're saying, and this will take time. Like, bro, it will take time to eliminate filler words because you need to train your brain to be ahead. You need to like train your brain almost so that you can prepare what you're going to say in advance, which means you need to cast a lot of Overwatch. You need to do reps. You need to really punch out a bunch of games. Get rid of these filler words. On the side of, I talked about a few of them. We need to see them disappear. And if you are going to say something about a team, first of all, make sure you refer to the player and the team. Don't say they. Don't say them. And don't say on the side of them. So really, like, I want to know, you need to keep referring to players because the observer is switching between perspectives all the time. So I don't know who you're referring to, and especially especially you don't know what I'm saying. Elite, with your play-by-play, slow it down, breathe. Try and give emphasis to some of these terms. Make sure that there's gravitas in what you're saying, because if everything is hype, nothing is hype. This is a problem I struggled with for many years. Try and use proper nouns and names. Shadowy, that's probably a better way of putting it. But yeah, take breaths. It's okay to miss a couple kills. If you are obsessed with catching all the action, then you will not really be able to deliver anything of importance to a viewer. Like they're not gonna engage with what you're saying. So just don't be neurotic about catching all the action. Find the important stuff. Slow down, breathe, get rid of filler words, refine your casting, be more efficient. From an analytical perspective, Panda, really try and tighten that up as well. I'd like you to be more specific to using names and think about the way that you're constructing your arguments. I want a little bit less of the what, because I can see the what. It's in front of me. I want the why. I want you to go a step deeper. It's like studying for a maths test. It's like, you know that 3 times 3 is 9. But you don't know what 3 times 5 is, because you don't know that you have to take 3 and then add it up 5 times. You just know that 3 by 3 is 9. You just read a times table. It's like there's rote learning. There's like remembering something off by heart. And then there's a deep understanding of knowing how something works. It's like you know something off by heart. A great example, in my opinion, is some teams that try and copy team compositions from pros. They know what to pick because they see it, but they don't know why the composition is strong. They don't know how to make it work or whatever. So try and go for that deep knowledge, or try and convey it a little bit more. You guys have to be the experts here. And I'm not saying that you had to, right now, you have to be like 500 IQ, 10D Mahjong geniuses of Overwatch, right? But you need to develop into someone who can be considered an authority, or no one's going to listen to you. So I really want to hear the why. I want to hear the explanation. I want you two to discuss with each other. Your throws are actually pretty good between one another. Elite, there was the one time you went a little bit too long, I think, on the attack, in that fight, and kind of threw your co-caster into, doing play-by-play when he's obviously a color caster. But, don't obsess about catching every single kill. Again, the why is so much more important than the what. I can't even begin to explain it. Really try and focus on, bringing that to the forefront of your casting. What else? There are a lot of great things I saw from you guys. Thank you for the bits. Elite, I think your technique as a play-by-play caster is there. I think you have like the talent to continue to sort of build on that. Again, when you start thinking about like why you're talking fast, why you're talking slow, why you're yelling, why you're not yelling, instead of, oh, there's a fight happening, I need to yell, you're gonna improve in leaps and bounds. Have some introspection about your approach to this stuff, and you're gonna be able to succeed. Think about when you're throwing. And sometimes if a fight keeps going long, you can keep it. Don't compromise the flow of your casting because you are worried that you're hogging the mic. I definitely think you should be cognizant of how much talking you are doing. But yeah, try to leave a little bit of space, man. Breathe. Breathe. Don't just tell me that what's on the kill feed. Tell me, give me some context. Tell me, if there's a kill that you're saying happens, tell me where it happens. Like, oh, Mazassa's gone down there. He was on the payload trying to contest it. All right, now I know why he died or where he died. I have that context that I'm sort of looking for. You guys are good value. I generally thought this was quite good. I really want you guys to think about what you're saying. And I feel like sometimes in this broadcast, you kind of just turned your brains off and sort of went on autopilot a little bit in terms of what you were saying. Panda, I think your explanations were really good. I think your understanding of the game is definitely at a sufficient level to sort of do what you're doing. I want to know about these composition changes. I want to know why. There are so many composition changes. I want to know why they're happening, and I want to know what the teams are trying to achieve by making that switch. Panda, when Elite asks you a question, I want you to answer it. All right? Even if you only answer it in one word, I want you to answer it. And then you can talk about what you want to talk about, right? Make sure you're listening to the question. You guys need to listen to each other. It's a bit tough when you're not there face to face, but try and turn this. This is what I do with Matt. This is just a style. This is something that I recommend to try, is that turn this into a conversation. Turn this into an extension of Elite and Panda, the casters, chatting in their daily life, hanging out. Turn this into an extension of that in terms of a conversation. Like, you guys are discussing what you think good here, what you don't like here. Don't be afraid to let each other sort of, off-roll or whatever, but, yeah, I want to know why. I want more of a discussion around this. Try to avoid just sort of pointing out the obvious. Thank you again for allowing me to do this. I will get this trimmed up. Just Dragon Ball references. Yeah, every time there's a Dragon Strike, if you don't say Shenron, you're fired. Thank you for giving me this, guys, and giving me a chance to do that. I really hope that this has sort of been a valuable experience for you guys, and that I hope you haven't felt attacked or anything. I'm really not being disparaging. Again, I think you guys are doing a good job. I think there's a lot of things that you have done a great job with, so keep it up. I would definitely like to see more of your work down the track if I have another